Welcome back, everybody, to the Real Life and Fishing Podcast. I'm the host, Jimi Easterling. Thank you guys for tuning in and give me the feedback. And from the last two episodes, man, I've gotten some great comments, some great support. And guys, we're just going to keep continuing this to growing. And thank you for being along with us. If you have not, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Go ahead and share it out. It's on all the platforms right now: Apple, Amazon, Spotify. And guys, today we have a special guest. And I know our last two episodes had some younger Arkansas anglers, and I want this to be a podcast to kind of give the Arkansas anglers a chance to share their stories and kind of, let other people know about them. And not just tournament anglers in Arkansas, but just people in the fishing industry from the state. But here and there, we're going to have some special guests. Like today, we have Matt Stefan on. And guys, Matt, I can talk probably about Matt for 5 to 10 minutes, but we need to get to this podcast because it is a good one. I'm excited for you guys to hear it. But Matt, so my connection with Matt's pretty unique. When Johnny started working with Matt on Fish the Moment, I then, started following along, started looking at Matt's history. I always kind of knew the name, and I knew he was competing in some of the old FLW Cups, the old Forest Wood Cup, that and I kept up with him. And then, when I started, getting familiar with him, then Johnny hired me at Fish the Moment, and I got to work with Matt. This time last year, I spent a whole week with Matt at Table Rock. Got to know him, be with him, be in the boat with him. Dude is golden. I mean, and I'm a fan. I feel like, when he just won his first tour, first big professional event this last week, and so I told him on the phone before we did the podcast, man, I felt like I was family with it. When I watched that win and just watched how it went down, man, like it was just brought me goosebumps to me, and I just felt, like I felt it for him because he has been through a lot to get to this point, and we're going to get into that. Okay, he's been a pro for 13 years. He's going to share how he became a pro at the level that he is at, and his wife's a big part of it as well. So guys, stay tuned to this podcast. It is going to be a one you don't want to miss. Thank you, guys. Now, let's also, real quick, though, this podcast is brought to you by Futrell Marine. Futrell Marine is your #1 marine boating dealer in the state of Arkansas, and they were ranked 7th in the country. Guys, Futrell Marine is a third-generation family business. Futrell Marine carries your top brands, top products. So if you're interested in anything from a bass boat, a duck boat, from that tri-tune right there behind me, guys, check out Futrell Marine. Go see if you're interested in anything. And also, besides that, I know it's August right now, school's starting. Some people are not using their boats as much. That winter's going to be coming. Don't wait till the last second to winterize your boat. I know a lot of people will wait for that last second to winterize, and next thing you know, everybody's fulled up and there's going to be a line. So hey, if you're about to put the boat up for the fall to winter, let's go ahead, call Futrell Marine. Let's let them get it winterized. Now guys, hey, appreciate you. Let's go into this one. Let me know what you think about it. I'm excited about it. Let's get into it. Matt, man, I appreciate you having you on today. I know you've excited. Your last week, 2 weeks has been something you probably dreamed about. It's been a lot going on. After jumping into the pro scene, 13 years, and you finally won a big major event. Well, I mean, what does it mean?
Jimmy, I gotta tell you, 13 years sounds like so long, right? But the reality is we fish like 6, 7 tournaments a year, so it's not that many tournaments, but it feels like I've just taken a big weight off my shoulders. It's something that we all strive for. The money is nice, but it really, from a personal goal standpoint, having that trophy in my room is pretty awesome. It makes me feel like I actually belong at this point. I've qualified for a lot of championships, qualified or made a lot of money, had a lot of top tens, but to actually say I won one now is pretty cool.
Yeah, and you said means a lot to you. Like I told you on the phone yesterday, man, like I felt how much it meant to you when you're up on the stage, they announce you won it. You didn't go to the trophy or that check. Dude, you were looking for your wife. And Sarah was right there. And dude, I know I'll let you talk more about it, but to me, it gave me goosebumps. Like I said, I was so excited for you guys.
Yeah, we are a team, and the fishing community, I think, realizes that how important our spouse is, and She keeps home just completely settled and moving forward while I'm gone, and I'm on the road a lot, and I 100% recognize, probably still take for granted how much work she does to make this happen. I mean, without her doing what she does, we wouldn't be here. So we are 100% a team. I didn't necessarily expect her to come up on stage. I just turned to my left and saw her running up on stage, and I mean, I just wanted to give her a big hug. I mean, I I didn't know how I would react. You think about it and you don't know if you'll be like screaming, you don't know if you'll be like bawling. And this, I'm probably tend to get more emotional with stuff like this than I normally would. And it's funny because, when I went back and watched it, and I almost was surprised by how little emotion I showed on stage. Like, there was a little bit of shock, a lot of relief. But what a lot of people don't know is how emotional I was actually in the boat. After we got through the lock and got to the check-in, we have about a 10-minute boat idle from the check-in boat to get to the ramp. And right off the bat, we checked in. I threw my key fob, our check-in number to the boat guy. And my camera guy, David, quickly, got the camera on me. He's like, Matt, we made it back. If you end up winning this, what's that going to mean? And I honestly, I couldn't talk. Like, I lost it. And it wasn't because I thought I had won the tournament. It was because I I had made it back. And I knew I had a good tournament. I knew I was going to get a big check. But one of the things that I thought about when we were waiting for 2 hours to lock through was, what would I say to my family and my friends? Because I had a lot, I probably had 15 or 20 people there rooting me on, and I just didn't know how I would be able to face them had I been locked out, had I showed up late with the winning fish in my live well. So to be able to actually get to the check-in boat and know that I was in and I had a good tournament was very emotional for me. So I almost felt like I had that release in the boat by myself, and as well as when I pulled in the dock, my wife Sarah came running down and she's like, "Oh my God, do you know what you've just done? Do you know where you're at? Like, you've almost got it. You might have a shot at this. Like, you had us on pins and needles at the lock." And I was just like, I had a lot of emotional release up to that point. To when I actually was on stage and got the win, it was like just a relief. It was like, oh God, it's finally, I've got it. So it felt really good. And all I wanted, like, I was so happy to have Sarah by my side, because not only do I feel like she gave me strength to keep from completely losing it, it was just a pure joy and happiness moment for our family. And that was important. That was awesome.
Yeah, I know it's very special to get that win with your family, being able to be so close. For the people, my viewers here that doesn't know Matt, well, you live 2 hours from the takeoff, but your brother-in-law was close to town, which then meant your other family could be there. And also, guys, I'm not going to let Matt go if Matt can talk about what he wants, but if you do not know, I mean, you need to go watch Matt's YouTube channel, okay, Matt Stefan Fishing, and you can get the whole the dam locking situation. A lot of people I know that don't keep up or hear. I was keeping up with it a little bit, and I knew that they had some problems, but then I already saw them come in. But they almost got locked out, and that's just the gamble you take. And I know you talked about it in your prep for this tournament. You were close, or you're close. You had to get 78th or better to be a BPT angler. So everybody, he not just only won, he's now in the BPT, the top circuit of professional fishing. It's that or the Elite Series. So you had to get 78th or better. But you said, I'm still going to go out and try to win this thing. You didn't play it safe. And at the end of the year, I was listening to today, Mercer and Zona talk about how anglers at the end of the year that play it safe typically don't do good. And you just said, no, I'm going to try to hit the Grand Slam still.
Yeah, I don't know if I was like, I went out there saying I'm going to hit the Grand Slam. In a way, it probably was more of a result of having such a terrible practice.
If you're thinking on where to have your next weekend getaway or even a short or long family vacation, let me tell you guys about Swaha Lodge and Marina that is located on Lake Greason down here in southwest Arkansas. Swaha Marina is a family-owned business that has been in operation since 1968. The marina is a full-service marina that has a restaurant, that has pontoon boats for you to rent. If you're interested in a fishing trip, why don't you call and ask about the guides, as they're some of the best crappie fishing in southwest Arkansas is done on Lake Greason. Also around Lake Greason, you have some great fly fishing that's below the dam. You also have trails that's ATV riding on the north end of the lake. Swaha Marina has everything from cabins to lodges that will give you and your family a comfortable and a great experience.
Where what I wanted to do was stay in pool 8. Like pool 8, which is where we launch out of, that would take the locking out of it. You get to fish for a much longer period of the day, and it's the pool that I'm most familiar with. Like, it's my favorite pool to fish. The problem was there's been a lot of major tournaments there over the last month. The fish were completely beaten up, and because we had extreme low water levels, there was very little current. So the fish spread out more, they suspended more, they moved out of like traditional river areas, and in the areas where they did group up based on current were pretty heavily pressured. So, I didn't find anything in pool 8, which meant I found fish in pool 9, I found fish in pool 7, and I decided to fish pool 7 because I found both largemouth and smallmouth, and I felt like I could kind of do both, versus pool 9 was mostly smallmouth. And that's why I decided to go up there. And I can't say, like, the day one going out, I knew I needed to catch a okay limit both days to lock up my BPT. So I figured I needed 11 pounds a day, which on the Mississippi River is kind of like catching 5 or 6 keepers. I mean, they're chunky, healthy fish. And my initial plan when I went up to pool 7 was I'll go up there, catch, if I could catch 12 or 13 pounds, I would probably lock it back down to be safe and then go run a bunch of history on pool 8. But what I found out with the spot where I was fishing was the quality was pretty good. And, after I think I had the first 5 fish I caught, I think I was sitting on like 14 pounds, but one of them was a line burner. So it was probably 11-ish, 11:30 at that point, and I decided I would stay there until noon, or until I could catch one and replace that little one. And I ended up replacing that little one with like another 3-pounder, or maybe even a little better than 3.5-pounder. And at that point it was noon, and as I'm driving back to the lock with 16.5 pounds in the boat, I kind of was like, things have changed a little bit, with respect to how I'm going to play this. And at that point I kind of started having the idea that spot could be a real player in the tournament. And I decided I'd probably be pushing it a little bit more. So much so where on the last day, I mean, it almost cost me. But it was. I can't sit here and say I played it safe. I can't sit here and say I was trying to go all in. It just worked out where the spot was good enough where every day by about noon I had 15.5 to 16.5 pounds, which is a really good bag in the summer on the Mississippi River.
Yeah, that was. Now you just said playing it safe or not. I'm about to turn it a little bit, turn this conversation. So just let us know, what did you do before you were a professional tournament angler? What was Matt Stefan doing?
I was a financial regulator at the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. So I reviewed trade activity that took place in all the financial markets that traded at that exchange, looking for financial fraud.
Interesting. So what was the point to where you're like, hey, I want to do this for a living. I want to go be a professional tournament angler. Like, what was it? Like, this is what I want to know. I don't know bits and pieces.
Yeah, so I mean, I've always been a tournament angler. I mean, when I was as soon as I graduated college, I bought my first boat. I graduated college, got my job actually working in the financial markets, and then bought a little 18-foot skeeter real quick, and then proceeded to fish probably 20 tournaments a year, local events. And it got to the point where I was doing really well in local and regional events. In 2000, right around 2010, the financial crisis kind of hit, and there were a lot of anglers that were not going to continue fish. They lost sponsors, and I talked with FLW at the time, and they said they had some openings, and I had won enough local money to fund my way for my first year, so I took the jump, but I continued to work my corporate job for the first 3 years. And during that third year, it was towards the end of the season, I was not having a good year. All 3 of my first 3 years, I finished like in the 70s or 80s in points, so right in the middle of the field. And I got to a point where I felt like something had to give, right? Like I was working a full-time corporate gig. At that point, I was in management, so I had a bunch of people under me. It was a stressful job. It was a lot of time just to stay on top of everything. And then, you're trying to fish at the professional level where, not that I still don't really pre-practice ever, but there's a lot of kind of research I do online, just, whatever I can, and Google Earth studies, stuff like that. And I just didn't have the time to do it. So I felt like I was not performing on the water. I felt like I was not performing at a top level in the corporate world. I was doing what I needed to do, but I was not, I felt like I was falling behind on some things too. So I got to a point where I kind of was like, one of the things needs to give. And at that point in the corporate world, I was starting to take like the stand in federal cases. So because I was a management position, if we had a fraud case we were prosecuting and they were big enough, I literally was taking the federal stand and, was a witness and putting people behind bars. And that was a really stressful thing for me. And I just had I was not enjoying the job like I had. What I enjoyed about that job was taking millions, literally potentially millions of rows of trade data and trying to identify patterns in the numbers that would give you the idea that somebody was manipulating data or, setting up fake trades or doing whatever they were doing. I really enjoyed that. By the time I was in management, I wasn't doing the work. I had 7 or 8 people under me, and I was reviewing their work. Like it wasn't the same. And it was a much more stressful job. So I was getting unhappy with the job. My wife came home from work one day when I had a really bad day at work, and she just broke down. She was working for another chiropractor, and she's like, I don't like how they run their business. They want me to do certain things that I don't want to do. And we decided to go to dinner that night, and we set some goals. We wrote down goals on a napkin while we were having drinks. And the conclusion was I want to fish full time and leave my job. And she wanted to leave her chiropractic job and start her own little chiropractic clinic. And so from that dinner on, we set the wheels in motion. And it took us about 1.5 years to get everything situated, like her office up and running to the point where I quit without any sponsor support. And I'm going to say it was a month after I quit my job when I met the Bridgeford family and was able to jump on board with the Bridgeford professional fishing team. So it all worked out. But I tell you what, in hindsight, I look back on it and I'm like, man, that was kind of stupid for us to do all that. But at the same time, we are so much happier right now than we were back then.
Wow, that's awesome, man. So I didn't know all of that. So how long were y'all married? How long were y'all married to that point when we sat down and wrote our goals down on the napkin?
If Sarah listens to this, she's probably going to get mad at me. We got married in 2007. We got married in 2007, but we met in college, so we started dating in probably 2000, 2001, something like that. So yeah, we had been together for a while. We were married for a while at that point, and there's just happy. Money is great. Like, we both had really good jobs and gave up that, but if you're not happy, and I know people say moneyness can buy happiness, and it truly can. But the thing is, like, I'm generally very happy all the time now. Like, I'm very satisfied with life and what I'm doing versus, like, you might go have a great trip for a week, but then I would go back and ride the same Metra train to work every morning with the same people, all of us sitting in the same seat every day, and then at the same time you'd all get on the same dang train, go home, and everyone on that train looks miserable. Like, nobody wanted to be going into the workplace. And because of that, it was like, yeah, you'd have these moments of really good happiness because you could afford those moments, but then you'd be right back in work where you were not happy. And when you're working a corporate gig like that, I was working 50, 60 hours, right? So it's like, that's the huge, big chunk of your time. And it wasn't working for me. It wasn't satisfying to me. So we jumped ship, and luckily enough, through some hard work, we've both been able to make, a good career out of what we do now.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's one thing that so what was it? Before I started working for Johnny Fish the Moment and doing my life now, which is wild that I do this, I got to speak at the Nashville, here at Nashville, their graduation. I got to be the big speaker. And I talked about, like, I think it was 5 points, like they're right 18 years old. But one of them was to take a risk. And that's what, sometimes you take a risk. It might not go well, but then again, you do not know unless you try. So
Yeah.
you and Sarah, perfect example, man. And I've, for me, even what I'm doing now, it's a risk, but like you said, you enjoy what you're doing. I have fun. I'm around my little one a whole lot more than I ever would have been if I was still coaching, teaching. I know I'm not on the road like you, and you've already mentioned that, and that's one thing, I guess, and I'll let you talk about it a little more, but like, I have people in town. There's a lot of really good anglers in town. And one of them mentioned to me, we're talking about it yesterday, and like I said, I'm going to go ahead and give him a shout out, Michael Howard. Everybody knows Michael. He let me use the church today. I'm at Blue Bayou Church of Christ. I'm sorry, I about said Baptist, man. He's going to get mad at me for that. Blue Bayou Church of Christ. But he had a chance at a young age to do the professional, the whole professional tournament scene. Man, he won a lot of tournaments locally, boats, but he didn't want to do the travel. He wanted to stay home, be a family man, which is fine. But you already gave Sarah credit, man. But I just, I'll let you talk about her with that and how y'all make it happen.
Yeah, that's the toughest part about the job for me. I don't like being away from my family for extended periods of time. In an ideal world, I would love to have them travel with me, because there's a lot of times we go to places that I would love to, like, experience the area, whether it's, national parks nearby or whether it's just cool little towns. But the reality is, I'm there for work to fish, and I don't get to experience any of that. So I'll be in this cool area, and it's like, I never even saw it because I was on the water from sun up to sundown. But I know that if I were able to have the family travel with me, we would probably stick around for a couple of days, and it would be nice to experience these areas. The issue we have now is our boys are 5 and 7, and they're kind of starting to get into the school, and it's like, well, how do we do that if they're in school? I don't know, I don't know that we would necessarily be real opposed to homeschooling, but I just don't know that would work for us either. So I don't know if there's like a real potential of that happening, but I could see it happening during summer tournaments and during, tournaments maybe when they have like spring break or whatever it is. But yeah, for me, that's the hardest thing about being gone. I think there's some anglers out there that probably would say they love the fact they're on the road and away from what's going on at home. But the relationship that I have with Sarah and my family, I mean, I've my parents and just really drove it home when I was young that family comes first, and that's kind of how we've always approached it, and it's been an amazing relationship. I just know there's a lot of times where I put her in tough positions because it's like I'm gone for almost 2 weeks, and that means she's got to set everything up, whether that entails some daycare or just figuring out when she's going to be able to run her own business and how she's going to do that. So there's a lot of headaches from it, and I think I think there's a lot of relationships in the fishing world that really suffer and struggle with this. I mean, there's a very high divorce rate amongst anglers, and I think that's a lot of it. And I also think a lot of it comes a lot of it is based on just the relationships where, like, we've grown into this role, meaning I've known her since college. In college, I probably would have had much better grades had I not been fishing from the riverbank every other day, right? Like skipping class to fish. So she's always been part of that. She has grown with me as I went from fishing 5 local tournaments to 30 local tournaments to fishing regional to, and being gone for weekends at a time to fishing professional. So, like, we've really grown together and gotten into that role, or where we are now because of that. Whereas I think a lot of relationships are just kind of thrown into, okay, I'm going to be, we're in a relationship, but you've got one person in that relationship is gone every other week or every couple weeks for a tournament, and it sounds very realistic to start with, but it's hard for couples to be able to deal with that over a long period of time. But because we've grown to the level we're at, I feel like it has been to our advantage.
Yeah, I agree with that, and that's when I watch the videos you have. I watched a lot of your YouTube videos, but when you started bringing Sarah on your couple recent 2-3 months, and then the family, like, you have your kids in the boat in some tournaments, y'all fish the Wednesday nighters. Man, I can just tell, like, it's a good bond that you guys have. And there's times where being away can make you stronger. And I think y'all have done that. Like you mentioned, they're 5 and 7 now. I got a 17-month-old, and I have another one on the way. And it's like, wow, like that 17-month-old.
I didn't know that.
Man.
Congrats, Jimmy.
Yes,
Congrats.
thank you. Yes. Hey, it's a little girl too.
When's the due date?
January.
Oh,
January.
boy.
Yeah, we've yes, it's very exciting. Yes, it's happened quick. That's what Charlie today's at the doctor today. When I get off here, I'll call her and see. She had to do some stuff today, and but they're close. Like yours are 2 years apart, and I know
almost exactly 2 years.
Yeah, so like that 2 years, as I'm learning, like that first 2 years, 2, 3, 4, I mean, there's a lot that happens with kids, and it's, like the house. I saw a funny meme today, or a funny TikTok or Instagram reel, where it was a dad talking, and he was just like, I never have quietness at my house anymore because of these 2 kids. And it just showed like the living room, and it was total chaos.
Yeah.
And I was like 100%.
Yeah, you'll find the bathroom will become your friend.
Yeah.
The bathroom is the only room I get any potential peace and quiet. Even then, it's generally there's a pile of knocking on the outside with the little "Dad, I need you." It's like, just give me 5 minutes.
Yeah, Charlie's already commented on that. She's like, you just go in there just to stay longer, and I'm like, oh boy, but oh, that's great. So hey, and what people also don't know, so Sarah has the business, and I guess she has a new building, because I remember talking to you 2 months ago, maybe even before the Mississippi River tournament. I don't know. You were there painting, doing sheetrocking. I mean, you couldn't even go fish. I mean, you were straight home builder status.
Yeah, we moved her from one location to a new location. God, that was in May. Yeah, so It was not we were not expecting the move. There were definitely, her lease was up and there were new owners with the building and things didn't work out. So it turned into, I went into like overdrive to get her new space built out. It wasn't anything super crazy, but there was a lot of redoing walls because walls had wallpaper on them, so like we had to get the walls all done. There was a few walls that needed to be built, but it was, yeah, lots of painting, lots of trim work, lots of just moving equipment in there. But yeah, we got it done. It actually turned out really, really nice. Like, I'm very, very happy. She's very happy with it, and we kind of created her previous chiropractic location had more of the doctor feel to it, more of like a doctor's office, and then the one we have now feels much more modern and up to date. You could maybe go as far as saying it's got a little bit of a spa feel to it, so it's a much nicer facility. She's happier. It's also smaller, which at first I think we were a little concerned with, but I think in hindsight it actually almost makes things run more efficiently, having a little bit less space, and there were some things that we were able to change. But yeah, it was that's the part that's really kind of crazy when I do a little bit of looking back on this year. I mean, I've had the best year I've had in my career. I finished third in Angler of the Year standings. I had 5 of the 6 tournaments were top 21s or better. The worst one I had was a 62nd, and so I mean that's out of 150. So I mean it's still not that terrible. And during that time frame, I moved my wife's clinic. I've started Core Tackle and got that up and running with Johnny. I've been able to keep the YouTube channel, daily content going. Like, it's really, when I look back on it, I'm like, I don't know how I was able to do it all to the point where like my fishing was really good. And I almost feel like because I concentrated less on the tournaments, between tournaments, that when I got to the lakes, I was fishing much more in the moment per Johnny. I mean, I just feel like I was fishing the conditions versus going there with all this preconceived ideas as to what I was supposed to do. And I just went and found my own fish. So I'm doing a lot of analyzing to see if there's something I can take away from this year and apply to future years. Or I just need to continue to work my butt off, and maybe more wins will come, I guess.
We need to start a rod and reel company now. I'm just kidding. You got your own rods with I'm just joking there. So, but hey, if you'd like to share anything. So last year, so it was this week. So I was already following you before I started working Fish the Moment when Johnny brought you on. I then became a fan because, he brought Randy on, and I knew Randy and love Randy. I know some people have their opinions, but Randy's a good dude. Randy's going to be on here. I'm going to have Randy, man. He's going to be good. But when when Johnny brought you in the scene, he told me about you, and then I started following. I had no idea y'all never met until this time last year when me and you met. That was the first time you met Johnny face to face, and I met you there at Table Rock. You just came off of a bad year, and you were pretty down on yourself. And there was points you kind of thought about maybe not pursuing the tournaments. Is that right? You talked about it, not much, but was that really? Yeah. Was that just you talking, or for real?
No, I was disappointed in my performance fishing wise. I mean, other than that, so if you took last year out, where I think I finished 70th or something, 70, I was in the top 75, but not by much. I think my previous, I'm gonna say 10 years, 8 to 10 years. I mean, I qualified for the championships. I don't think I was below 40th or 41st in points. So I mean, that's pretty good when you're talking about 150 to some of those years we had close to 200 guys. Yeah, so I was very disappointed with my performance, but really what it comes down to is I'm more disappointed in the tournament industry, meaning tournaments themselves have become very, very expensive. Payouts continue to get worse, and so the risk reward to fish them is hard to justify. Like, it's really hard to justify, especially like, so last year, I mean, I think I had, even though I didn't have a great year, I think, from an expense standpoint, I think I still almost covered my entry fees. It was probably a little bit short, but when you work in the rest of your travel expenses, the full expenses to fish at that level, the time value as well. I mean, if I'm there doing something, I can't be generating income somewhere else. And when you look at the numbers, it is really, really questionable as to why any of us do what we do. So from that standpoint, it's kind of like, why are we fishing these tournaments? Why have the anglers allowed it to get to this point? And honestly, from a payout standpoint and an expense standpoint, if the tournaments continue to fill up with anglers that are willing to play for this risk reward ratio, they're going to continue to milk it for everything they can until they get to the point where they can't fill a field. So the anglers, in my opinion, are really allowing this to happen, and I'm part of that. I'm doing it as well. And it's kind of one of those things where it's like, okay, I've got sponsors that are supporting me to fish tournaments, as well as for my YouTube channel and for the other marketing things that I do. But I have gotten to the point where I feel like a lot of sponsors they don't care nearly as much about the tournaments as they do now some of the other marketing vehicles. So, after last year, it was like, man, fishing tournaments cost me a lot of money that I probably, would have not had to lose had I just been doing YouTube and other stuff with those sponsors. So the state of the fishing tournament industry, in my opinion, is terrible. Like, it's gotten worse every year I've fished it. I would be more than happy to sit on a panel and debate this with somebody who thinks the fishing tournament world has gotten better, but it really hasn't. Now, I will add, because I don't want to make anyone mad, that the anglers that have put in their time doing other marketing things, whether they're doing things like YouTube like I've done, whether there's some guys that are doing a lot of podcasts now, they're continuing to work hard to be relevant, and they're increasing their value. My value has increased more over the last couple of years than it ever did in the first 10 years. So I'm fully aware that there are a lot of potential opportunities for anglers. The fact of the matter is, though, 10 years ago, there were a lot of guys, most of the tournament guys were able to make really good livings just tournament fishing. And I'm not going to say you can't do it, but it's really difficult to do that now. So I'm frustrated with tournaments is what it is.
Interesting. I like that you shared that. I know we've talked about it a little bit, but everything you said there, I mean, like I said, it's professional. It's the tournaments, and I kind of think that I'm an outsider. I love watching the tournaments. I know guys in the industry, and I feel for, and I've talked to a couple, I'm not going to name the names on here, the other anglers, but I get all the bits and pieces, and it's hard for me. I know, like the two previous guys on this podcast as I got started were both young anglers. One of them, man, is right now one of the best anglers in Arkansas. I mean, he was the Mr. Bass Angler of the Year. He's won multiple team tournaments, and his goal is to be where you're at. And I've tried to tell him, hey, it's hard right now. Like, you have to learn it's not just tournaments. Like Patrick Walters, people say is one to where he's just relying on tournaments, and he'll say that. But that's hard. Like, yeah, it's you've done great with the YouTube. And that's why I've tried to tell these younger kids that I'm around, since I coach a high school fishing team. And I'm like, hey, guys, there's more to the industry than tournaments. But the tournament side is difficult right now. It is.
Yeah,
so
it's really if from my perspective, the industry is much more about how can you be well-rounded in terms of your entire career. I feel like it used to be and it still is to this day, that you can choose kind of one segment of the fishing industry and make a career at it. But the anglers that when I look at anglers that are really doing well in the industry, they are very well rounded with respect to having their fingers in a little bit of everything. And that's kind of what I'm trying to model my career after right now. So, for me, it's like I've got core tackle, I've got a growing YouTube channel, I've got a good sponsor portfolio, I'm fishing well. So when you start looking at all these different potential revenue sources, I guess, and you do them all and you can do them all pretty well, they all go together. Like they really, if one of them starts slacking off a little bit, but another one is having a good uptrend, it really does even out. And I think you're in a much better place as an angler if you're doing everything. Now that's hard to do. I'm not saying it's impossible to do, but it is hard to do. But if you can do it, I feel like your position within the fishing world will be much more secure. And that's what we're all after. I mean, I quit a good job to do this because I love the fishing industry. And for me, I'm willing to do whatever it takes to stay in it because I don't want to go back to that corporate job, man. Like, I just don't.
Yeah.
So, it's one of those things where it's like, how can you continue to bring on different potential revenue streams that can all relate to each other? So, if you take you look at a guy like Brandon Polinick or Jacob Wheeler, I mean, these guys are absolute, hammers on the water, but they have a lot of other things going on outside of that will benefit when they win a tournament, when they finish poorly in a tournament, they've got these other things that are still doing well, and it all kind of moves forward as a whole. And it's, they're like juggernauts in the sport because of it. So that's really what it's come down to, because it's just really hard to support a family on just tournament winnings when the reality of it is you're trying to win, with like the tournaments I was fishing, you're trying to win a $10,000 check by being in the top 30, which means you're in the top 20 percentile. But the reality of it is that $10,000 check, which sounds like a bunch of money, I had $5,000 entry fee, and I probably had $2,500 to fish that event. So I'm walking away with $2,500 for a week, which is good money for a week, but there's no guarantee. You would have a better risk reward ratio to take that $5,000 to a blackjack table and play one hand. I mean, you really, like, that's kind of what it feels like, and you could do that in 5 minutes versus spending a week to do it. So it's the tournaments, in my opinion, I don't understand why there's so many people that want to fish for the dollars that we put out to do it, except for the fact that I'm one of those addicted nuts like the rest of us. So we're all willing to do it to try to get to this dream world of, the top level of the sport. And, that, I guess that's why I think it's so important to try to do a little bit in all these different areas, because if you do get that opportunity, you don't want to squander that. So, I'm hopeful by getting to the BPT now, it's just going to help all of these other areas that I've got moving as well. And it's just going to help me continue to grow. But if you get I hear this a lot. I think there's a lot of times anglers qualify for one of the top levels in the sport, but they're not ready for it. They may be great fishermen, but they don't have the sponsor portfolio. They don't know what's going to be required of them to really take advantage of it, and they end up, not doing well because of it.
Yeah, that's why I was about to say you're more prepared than probably to make that. Like, look at the opens, your guys now, besides like the ones that walked right back through coming from BPT to the opens, but those guys a lot of times are not ready. And some of them guys are hammers, been fishing for a long time. Luckily for you, you had the FLW, you had you're in the invitationals, and what was it, pro circuit before? I mean, you could think if anybody is ready, it's you. Spencer Sheffield was one when he got in it. I thought he was prepared because he, did the FLW, and then had his little break and came back. He came back home and kicked everybody's butt, and he still says he became a better fisherman during that time, and I believe he did because, I mean, he was taking everybody's money. I hope to have Spencer on here one day. There's people in this town that know Spencer. I don't personally know him, but then he went back up, and you just saw him walk through it, and then now he's up there competing. Caught the biggest fish today at Saginaw. But no, you're prepared. If anybody is, I think you are. And we're excited. I'm excited for you. I'm going to be right there. Hopefully, if you're about to go win one, I might have to fly in and drive in and find you.
Yeah, I'm feeling like there's not any part of me right now that's like scared's not the right word, but timid or intimidated at all. Like there's not any part of me. I mean, the reality of it is I've probably fished against 90% of those guys, over the course of my career, whether it was back in the old FLW Tour days or maybe some Bass Opens or the Pro Circuit or the Invitationals, whatever it is. And I feel very comfortable with my own fishing skills that I'll be able to hold my own with them. I'm not saying I'm going to walk in there and take all their money, but I mean, I feel like I'll be able to maintain, my performance level fishing there. And I'm very excited to get back to that level. I'm more excited to see if some potential opportunities open up because of this. Like for so long, when I was fishing the FLW Tour, or when it was the FLW Tour, I was more of just a straight angler, meaning I was trying to make a living through just the tournaments. I was not doing much above and beyond. And then, part of the reason I started the YouTube channel was because I could see the value of what I was fishing just took a major hit based on MLF buying it and basically making us a AAA circuit. So I put a ton of effort into growing that to try to maintain some relevance in the fishing world. And I mean, at this point, I feel like I've got better brand recognition, my personal brand recognition because of YouTube. But now to have that rolling and to be back, or to get into BPT, I'm excited to see if some opportunities arise because of that.
Nice. Now, hey, I know we're 45 minutes in. I know you're on the schedule. I have some questions here. I'm not going to be able to get through them all. On your way to like day one of a derby, day 2 or day 3, okay? What are you listening to in your truck?
Oh, man. So every year, music is a big thing for me. And every year I feel like I get into like a couple of songs that kind of are the first songs I listen to before tournaments. And I mean, I don't even know the exact name of them. So this is going to sound weird. I have gotten a lot more into, I won't say EDM per se, but I like, for all the driving we do, especially late at night, I do like some faster beat music. The 2 songs though right now, the first one I listened to, it's by an artist named Dennis Lloyd, and it's a song called Nevermind. And then I follow that up with a song by Odessa called Keep Her Close.
Okay, interesting.
You probably never heard of either of them, but they're really good. Like they're really good. Like I don't know, just mellow, but just kind of get me in the mood to like fish. I don't know how to describe it.
That's one of my questions I've thrown on here to ask guys at the end, just to kind of get a feel, because I thought, I mean, everybody's different in the mornings, so I just wanted to hear what old Matt Stefan has to listen to.
When my average drive is 14 to 20 hours, I do a lot of music surfing on like Pandora and coming up with different channels, and I end up finding songs I'd never hear of otherwise. And it's very, very common for me to run into a song on that drive that becomes like the song of the trip. So like I'll hear it on Pandora, I'll be like, I love that. I'll buy it off iTunes, and then it's like the song I listen to throughout the tournament week.
Nice. All right, hey, one easy question.
What are you listening to right now, Jimmy?
I listen to. See, that's good. I like it. So So lately I've been listening to podcasts mostly. Like I just love podcasts and been listening. I just went blank on the guy's name. Oh, I've listened to him a lot lately. It's on my phone. I got a computer. I can Google him real quick. His first name's Chris. I just went blank. I think Chris. No, timeout. That's nice that I got a computer. I can do this.
I will say I've been listening to a lot more podcasts as well. You get songs will cycle through and you hear the same, like after a couple hours you hear the same songs. Podcasts feels like you're sitting in on a conversation.
Yes. Oh, so Zach Williams is who I've been listening to lately. Zach Williams, in the gospel world, Christian world, they can label him as a Christian artist. But it's more of a southern rock and more of that kind of, I say, blues. And like his music's good, so I've been listening to him lately. There's a lot, man. You know, that's why I joked on the last one. Growing up, man, Metallica was it. I mean, dude, I'm listening to Enter Sandman, Master of Puppets. But I realized what happened with me, and when I stopped listening to metal in the morning, I would be more chill at the ramp. But dude, if I was listening to that hard stuff, I'd be all fired up and hyped. You know, get in the boat, go, go, go. And so I got away from that. I had to get more, you know, and I learned it from Johnny making content. Because making content is not easy like people, you know, a lot of people, you know, think it is. But like what's made me a better angler in the last year, well, there's a lot. But one of them is finding fish that's not a community hole deal or finding fish doing something different. And part of that, when you go on the lake, you got to be mellow, chill, make good decisions. And I guess that kind of like you talked about earlier, going to the lake and fishing the moment and not, you know, going through a lot of the history. And it's, the last couple months it has showed out for me. Like I've talked to you a little bit about it, but that one lake we got here, dude, I've caught a lot of big fish or 5 pound plus fish, which is good anywhere except Texas. Like Texas, we know is different, but even here, but I've not caught one in the same spot twice. Like I've not caught multiple fish, and it's been all, you know, that stump or rock, or it's been mainly because of live scope. I'll tell you that right now. But that's what's been cool. But instead of me just going to that brush pile and catching 20 pounds out of it, I've been fishing everywhere, and it's been neat. So. But man, I appreciate it. This was great. I got to hear, man, the people we got to hear, because it's, you know, it's called Real Life and Fishing. So we want to get into life, but we talk fishing too. But man, dude, you got into it. You got to share your story. Man, I'm fired up for you, and we're excited.
When are we going fishing?
Oh, great. Yeah, that's great.
I'm going to get with your schedule. When are we going fishing?
Yeah. So let me get with your schedule. Not today, but I need to get some dates to where I can fly up and we can fish or whatever, because I want to catch some smallmouth. 100% I want to catch some smallmouth. Or whatever you want. I know
of a few smallmouth places.
Yes, you do. But if you come down this way, come on. Just call. But I know you're about to be a busy man now that you've BPT and now we're winning trophies. Go ahead and win the Red Crest. Let's go win the Red Crest.
Dude, I've said now several times that winning used to feel so unobtainable, and after this event, it feels so obtainable. Like it really does feel like something that you can do. You find the right little group of fish, and it's not hard, and that's what happened. So you never know. Hopefully, I go on some sort of crazy dominating roll of 74 straight wins.
No, that'd be nice. Hey, but like Joey, Joey, which you know. I think you have a good relationship with Joey Cifuentes, right?
Oh yeah, I love Joey. Yeah.
Joey went from being a second place, third place in the mix. I mean, that dude's won 2 elite titles this year. I mean, it can happen. It's your time. Let's get it done.
Yeah, it's all about just. I wish I knew the exact formula, but a lot of it is mental. The other part is just making good decisions and fishing well. And we're on a heater right now. I'm liking it.
Yeah. Heck yeah, man. Well, I appreciate having you on. And man, I'll like to say anything else you'd like to say?
No, we're good, man. I just want to go fishing with you.
I want to go fishing with you, man. It's last time we fished against each other, you put me in my place, which was right. The first time to me going to a bigger lake, I got to see how you and Randy while y'all are the professional tournament anglers. Y'all dissected it a little quicker than I did.
That was fun. That was fun. Cool, man.
All
Well,
right,
thanks
man.
for having me on. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.